The message comes through the flight attendant, not through the intercom, not through a knock on the cockpit door, through her, Maya, who has worked this aircraft for 6 years and has the particular stillness of someone who has learned to carry information without reacting to it. She steps into the cockpit at 41,000 feet somewhere over the Kansas flatlands, leans slightly toward you and says 4 words.
He wants to talk.
You've been flying this aircraft for 3 years. In 3 years, he has come forward twice. Once to ask about turbulence over the Pacific, once to confirm an ETA into Zurich. Both times the conversation lasted under 90 seconds. Both times he was already moving back toward the cabin before you finished answering. You tell Maya you'll be right there. You run a quick mental scan, weather clean, no traffic conflicts, autopilot stable, co-pilot capable. You unstrap. The walk from the cockpit to the main cabin is 11 steps. You've never counted them before. You count them now. He's sitting at the forward club seat, laptop open, phone face down on the table. He looks up when you enter. He doesn't gesture for you to sit. You stand. He tells you he's been reviewing the routing. You wait. He says the flight plan you filed added 47 minutes to the trip. He names the waypoints. He is correct. You filed a dogleg around restricted airspace that opened back up 6 minutes after pushback. You could have taken the direct route. You made a conservative call, a defensible call, the kind of call that has kept your record spotless for 14 years. He doesn't raise his voice. He doesn't need to. He asks if you understand that his time has a value and whether you've considered what 47 minutes of that time costs. He's not being rhetorical. He's waiting for an answer. You give him one. You explain the airspace, the timing, the window that closed before departure. You use the right words. Measured. Professional. The explanation is airtight. He listens. He nods once. He says he understands. Then he tells you this isn't the first time. You stand very still. He opens something on his laptop. He turns it toward you. It's a spreadsheet. 18 months of flight logs, your routing decisions cross-referenced against optimal paths filed by other operators in the same windows. The analysis is detailed. Someone built this. Someone has been building this for a long time, and it was not him. He doesn't have time to build spreadsheets about pilot routing decisions, which means someone else has been watching you the way you've been watching instruments. Quietly, systematically, without you knowing. He says the word consistently 3 times in the 4 sentences. Consistently conservative. Consistently slower. Consistently not what the job requires. You want to explain that conservative routing in is not a flaw, that every decision you made was legal, logged, and defensible, that the 11 people on this aircraft are alive and unhurt across 3 years and 600 flights because you fly exactly the way you fly. You don't say any of that. He closes the laptop. He tells you that when you land in Los Angeles, you should plan to transition out of the role. He will have his team handle the paperwork. He says it the way he'd say anything else. Cleanly, without performance. He picks up his phone. The conversation is over. 11 steps back to the cockpit. You count every one. You strap back in. Your co-pilot Daniel glances at you. You tell him nothing. You check the instruments. Fuel state normal. Airspeed normal. Altitude normal. The aircraft does not know what just happened. It is indifferent in the way that machines are indifferent. And right now, that indifference is the only stable thing in the world. You have 4 hours and 22 minutes until Los Angeles. The thing about being told you're finished at 41,000 feet is that you still have to fly the airplane. There is no pulling over. There is no stepping outside. There is no processing time available. The checklist doesn't have a line item for this. You set the power, you monitor the systems, you talk to center when they call, and you do it all with the same voice you always use because ATC doesn't need to know, and Daniel doesn't need to know, and the 11 people in the back don't need to know. The sky outside is cloudless. The planes are giving way to desert. The autopilot holds altitude within 20 feet. Everything is functioning perfectly. You think about the spreadsheet, 18 months. Someone watched 18 months of your decisions and built a case from them. Every time you added a waypoint for weather that cleared before you reached it. Every time you flew the longer route because the shorter one had convective activity forecast that never materialized. Every conservative call you made in the dark, lone, at altitude, without anyone to confirm you were right. Every single one of those calls is now evidence against you. This is the specific cruelty of flying well. The proof of good judgment is nothing happening. You can't show anyone a disaster that didn't occur. You can't point to the turbulence you avoided or the weather that would have been bad. The absence of incident is invisible. The extra 47 minutes is not. Daniel asks if you want coffee. You say yes. Center calls with a traffic advisory. You respond. Roger, traffic in sight, no factor. The voice that comes out of your mouth is completely normal. You will think about that later, how normal it sounded. How the training goes so deep that it runs on its own, underneath everything else, regardless of what's happening to the person attached to it. You think about the NDA you signed in 3 years ago. It is comprehensive. It covers the routes, the passengers, the conversations, the schedules. It covers this, whatever this is. You cannot discuss the circumstances of your departure. You cannot reference the flight logs. You cannot name the aircraft or the operator. In a week, you will be a pilot who left a private aviation position, and no one will know why, and you will not be able to tell them. And your record, your spotless 14-year, 600-flight record, will be something only you know the shape of. The desert is very flat below you. The sun is behind you now, dropping toward the Pacific. You think about the younger pilot on the crew, Torres, who asked you 6 months ago what this job was really like. You told him it was the most technically demanding and personally invisible job in aviation. You told him the right way to do it was to separate the aircraft from the passenger. You told him the job was the job regardless of who was in the back. You were right. You just didn't know the full implication of it yet. The implication being, it also works the other way. You are the job, not the person. The job is replaceable. You were always replaceable. The aircraft doesn't know your name any more than the passenger does. So-called approach clears you for the SAD DE arrival into LAX. You brief the approach, flap schedule, speed targets, runway assignment. Daniel reads back the clearance. The checklist runs clean. You start the descent. The city appears below you the way it always does, this particular sprawl of light and grid in the dark seam of the coast where California ends. You've flown this arrival 41 times. You know where the bumps usually are, where the marine layer sits in the morning, where the winds shift on the final. You know this airspace the way you know your own handwriting. Gear down, flaps full, stable at 1,000 feet, on speed, on path, on center line. The runway comes up the way it always does when you have done it right. Slowly at first, then all at once, and then you're on it. Smooth, the thrust reversers coming in, the braking even and controlled, the rollout clean. You turn off at the high-speed exit. You taxi to the ramp. You set the parking brake. Behind you, the cabin is already in motion. Phones coming off airplane mode. The world rushing back in. In 4 minutes, he will be in a car, and the car will be moving, and he will be somewhere else entirely. Already thinking about something else entirely. You run the shutdown checklist. Both engines spooling down. Systems off in sequence. The aircraft going quiet around you in the specific way it does at the end of a flight. Each system releasing. Each hum fading. Until all that's left is the tick of cooling metal and the distant sound of the airport outside. You log the flight. Departure, Austin Bergstrom. Arrival, Los Angeles International. Flight time, 4 hours, 26 minutes. No incidents, no deviations, no irregularities of any kind. You close the logbook. You were the best pilot in this aircraft for 3 years, and nobody will ever know that except you, and the instruments that measured it, and the ground that never came up to meet you once. That's the whole record. You pick up your bag, you walk off the aircraft for the last time. The door closes behind you and the airplane stays.